It's a discussion which is very different. In fact, and a lot of prep went into this because the careers of today will not be the careers of tomorrow. And the prospects, what we are imagining or the reimagining on the GA side could be different. And this exactly is the theme of this lounge special, which is how to prepare for the next wave of GEI innovation from a career standpoint of view. And we've got four set of leaders to have this discussion with the anchor. Let me start with naming the leaders who would be the panelists. We've got Amar Saxena, he's a consultant at Kotak Mahindra Bank. We've got Shinjini Bhattacharyya, she's a vice president financial services at Accenture. And we've got Shuchi Rakheja, she's founder Shift 180 Business Advisory and Services. And lastly, we have Vinodh Ramachandran, head analytics and data science at Neiman Marcus Group. And to moderate the session, we have none other than Vijay. He's got a seasoned, very, I would say, well tenured experience, and he's a CEO at Tech Staffing and Search at Quess Corp. It's a listed company, Quess Corp. Vijay, over to you.
Hi, very good evening to all of you. I think thank you, Samir and the team at 3AI to get us on this lovely discussion. It's the topic of the season. Everyone's talking about what generative AI can do, what a generative AI could change, and a lot of stories coming out of what the world is moving into. There was an article that I read a couple of days back about how a generative AI bot called Karen was making friends across various segments and became the official generative AI girlfriend for many people, and raining a lot of money through her Instagram and Snapchat posts. So I think world is constantly changing with so much happening, and we consistently continue to be in a flux of what's good, what's bad, and what can we use better for our businesses, what can we use better for our customers, etc. So it's an absolute pleasure to host one of the finest minds in the space, and I've had the pleasure of talking to each one in this panel, and it's truly a gift to see how every individual sees generative AI differently, and how they use use cases and adaptive basis for each of their requirements as such. So starting just to give you a basic idea about how we would go through today, we're talking about how what are the career prospects in the generative AI world, and how the workforce of today needs to stay relevant and keep updated to be value adding to the entire. So I'll bring straight up with Shinjini. Shinjini is someone who's managed significant and large customers across her career, and I've been amazed at how she's tackled new age problems. So Shinji, the question that I had for you is that you meet customers every day, and the need is really different with each customer. So how is the need coming from the customer side of things? How real is it? And are there use cases? How deep is it? I'm very keen to see how you have anchored customers in their need to develop a generative AI platform for themselves.
Yeah, so thank you so much, and I'm so excited to be part of this today. And very good questions to start this with. See, customers are always looking for better products, to develop better products, better services, right? So whenever there is a new technology in the market, right, they are looking to either improve their existing activities. If they're already using some algorithms to derive insights or drive their business, they want to improve on that, or they want to do newer activities using the new technology that has come in, right? This trend is always there from the days of big data, right? Or even before that, when we started doing all these data science and analytics and all. Now with generative AI, we see that there are a lot of existing problems which can be solved in a better way, more efficient way, or more accurately, right? So therefore the need is real, and therefore customers have already started talking that, okay, it's an existing problem, and how can we solve it better now that we have generative AI? There are a lot of questions that they have, that how secure is my data? I can use a new technology, but is my data secure? Right. Secondly, how is my budget affected if I take up generative AI solution? I have to implement that, right? These are some of the questions that customers already have, but the need or the keenness to have generative AI implemented in their businesses to drive their business better is already there. So, for example, if you consider marketing, right? Generative AI is able to come up with a lot of different kinds of content, right? And those and very quickly it can generate different kinds of contents, right? So optimizing your creatives is now, I would say, it is more efficient, easier. There are a lot of options for you to optimize your creatives. So a lot of things to play around with for marketing teams, do A/B testing on a lot of content and come up with the best one that improves your conversion. Sales is another area, especially B2B sales, wherever there is contact centers involved in persuading customers to take up new products, for example. I see that as a huge area where we can apply generative AI, right? Because you can have AI assistants who can help the contact center agents to make better conversations, right? So large language models can be very good in areas where there is a lot of conversation involved, right? So that's a very good area where there is
Very
a lot
interesting.
of need.
And I think when you mentioned about that impact on customer is so high today with generative AI, I want to bring Vinodh in. Vinodh, you're a analytics leader. You've been exposed significantly to the retail world. There is so much happening in the retail world in the generative AI space. Are people ready? Are people aware? And have they kept themselves updated? What's your take?
First of all, thank you. Thanks for this excellent conversation. Speaking of retail, I think there is a lot of excitement, right? Everybody's talking about it for sure. CXOs are extremely keen and interested in exploring what ChatGPT or any large language models can offer, especially in retail. And retail is all about customer service, right? So I think how can we make the lives of our customers better, right? Just to give an example, and I know Shinjini spoke about contact center. Even in retail, there is a lot of contact center operations involved, right? Customers place an order online, they probably don't receive the order, or they are trying to track it. They can't figure out where their order is. They're immediately calling the contact center. Their product is damaged. So they have tons of challenges that they reach out to contact center or customer service for, right? This is a great opportunity where large language models can clearly provide superior customer experience. They can I'm not saying they can completely eliminate the human touch, but they can really make it more efficient. Maybe customers interact with a bot online, and it's able to kind of answer almost all their questions, and only in certain cases are they reaching out to humans from a contact center standpoint. This is just a simple example. And even from a customer standpoint, imagine you're shopping in stores and there is a personalized shopping assistant for you, right? Literally telling you, hey, based on it's almost like a recommendation engine online, but it's right there on your phone, guiding you through the store, right? It can even tell you what, based on your past purchase, here is something in this store that would really be of interest to you. A lot of things about a product that it can tell to the customer, right, before they even, and it can entice a shopper in making a decision. So I really see immense possibilities. Of course, there is a what should I say, a cautious optimism as yet, right? Because it's we still don't know many things about large language models or chat GPT. We all know for sure it can transform our lives, but obviously there are many challenges that come with it, right? So we really need to be aware of what we are getting into.
It's very interesting that you mentioned that. So when Shinjini was talking about sales and you were talking about the customer service, I want to bring Shuchi in. Shuchi, you are a transformation advisory expert. You advise customers, CXOs on a daily basis of how to adapt or use such technologies. How ready is the customer to do investments here? How ready are the employees in terms of creating coding or creating system to support this? So in your line of work, keen to understand how an advisory or transformation expert looks at this?
Yeah, thank you first of all for inviting me for this discussion. So definitely, when a new technology is given an exposure, there is a lot of excitement about the possibilities and the outcome it can reach. However, there is definitely a learning curve, and different organizations are always at different stage of their AI adoption. So while this technology is very exciting, however, it's very important to understand at what stage of AI adoption an organization is. So, for example, if an organization is still struggling with their data management structures and all, then definitely they will take a lot of time in really utilizing this technology. So, I would say different industries, the AI adoption will actually guide the adoption of this technology.
Interesting. So when you say that different industries will look at adopting AI in different formats, I want to go to Amar. Amar, you are an expert and analytics leader, but more importantly, you're also a great academician, right? How is today students or colleges looking at this? It's easy from leadership to talk, saying we can improve, we can change, but how's academia looking at this?
Uh, Great question, Vijay. Thanks a lot. Great to have being on this panel. One of the things which I would want to again go back to, one of the things that you said, that we are in the midst of a cataclysmic change. It is something like what happened to the humankind, with electricity or the steam engine. So we are at the cusp of that kind of a transformation. So the bottom line really is that each and every one of us has to adjust to this new reality or risk becoming obsolete. So whether you like it or not, and the good part is we are at the early stage of it. It'll take 2.5 years or so to mature. Like Vinodh also was saying that there are a lot of things which are still unknown here. It'll take some time. So you have those times. So what your analytic maturity, your data maturity, as was said as well. As Shuchi also said. So now coming to academia, they have always been at the forefront of research and innovation. The work on the NLP front being done at IIT Mumbai, or the advances in the field of big data at IISc are just an indication of the same. So people have been working there for more than 35 years in the field of AI. So that's really something. Some of the leading universities in the world are leading the innovation drive in this. There are two aspects here: research into the field of generative AI, which is definitely happening, but more than that, the other aspect is how do we really adjust to it, adapting to generative AI. All my students are going to be using chat GPT when they submit their project or turn in their assignment. How do I ensure that the learning objectives are still met? In fact, I'll take a step back and say, should my learning objectives still remain the same, or do I need to relook them? What are the key skills that people need in this new changed era? Are we still going to measure using the same old aspect? If not, then what are they? So this is where a lot of the academicians and I also have been trying to work and get my arms around. There are really, coming to this, there are really two things. One is the context, another is the concept. And so somewhere or the other we have changed. What are the skills that will be required? I think adaptability or the context specificness. Those are some of the things will be required. So in short, I will say the clock is ticking. Please understand your data maturity. Please understand your analytic maturity and start taking steps in the next 1 or 2 years to become, AI ready. Yeah.
Amar, I'm going to ask you one
Tell
more
me.
question on that. You started off by saying that if the students or the candidates don't upgrade themselves, they run a risk of losing out or being
Yeah.
irrelevant. So when you have programs like neural
Yeah.
networks, NLP, AI, so much of things today. Okay, you have IITs and research organizations doing that's fair, but we
Mhm.
have people from across the board. So how ready are academicians or colleges keeping up? Because it's always not easy, right? Every time now, the problem is every 6 months to 1 year, your skill mapping is changing. And how does, how do these colleges keep up, and what should they do? And more importantly, these candidates, how do they stay relevant?
In fact, that reminds me about just a couple of days back, I read one of the organization in India, what they are doing is a reverse mentorship, where a 24-year-old is actually mentoring a 45-year-old working professional. We have to change the way we live, and more importantly, whether we like it or not, this change is coming. Easy or not, you need to pick it up. So the right question is, as you have very rightly asked, how do I proceed? The good part is that it is a machine learning algorithm. So while statistics and maths will still be there, but it is very minimal. Why am I highlighting about statistics and maths? Given my experience in academia, I've seen students really fearing about it. I don't know why they fear it. It's a wonderful subject, but yes, a lot of students fear it. So this makes the task a little easier. Do not fear anything about this area. The most important thing is programming. Are you good at programming? Deep learning, so the advances that have happened over the last 5 years in the field of deep learning are enormous. The algorithm which would take probably a month to run in 2017-18 now can be executed in just under a day. So that is actually giving us the power to address significantly more complex situations and significantly more complex scenarios. There are so many tutorials available, and I ask the students, just go and learn. You need to have that right aptitude. Just go and learn. There are at least 1,001, if not 1,01 tutorials available, simplifying things, dumbing things down. Nobody can assign a tutorial to you. Go out and explore. Find out what are the things which you feel comfortable with. Because ultimately, the wearer knows where the shoe pinches. What is it that you have the fear of?
Right.
Try to fight this out. Programming part is much more easy. Generative AI itself is helping you in programming. You need to understand the context very well.
True. Let me bring Vinodh here. When
Yeah.
Amar was saying, Vinodh, that it's about being relevant and keeping yourself upgraded. When technology hiring was on a surge a couple of years ago, the problem was everyone had the word Java in their CV, but when you interview them, they wouldn't really have a depth of knowledge, and generally, then half the time of the hiring manager goes for a waste. Do you see something similar in this space as well? Because this is new and people want to get into it, but they're not really keeping it up.
Yeah, I definitely see that happening. I think we're going to be flooded with resumes, and I think it's going to be very tricky finding out really good candidates. Of course, you have to be good at identifying good candidates. Given generative AI itself is a very new field, I first need to upgrade myself to be able to hire, right? So that's how I think of the situation. I also want to talk about the different roles, the different types of roles, right? So you could be a developer, somebody who is building a generative AI, a large language model, maybe not from scratch, but you're at heart a developer, and that's your core job. You could still be a tech professional, but you're probably using generative AI to build apps or make your life easy, make yourself more productive. And then the third group that I see is end users, right? Maybe an end customer who is also going to interact with a chat GPT and make their lives easier, right? So what you given these, and there could be many more, right? I mean, you could also be maybe a content creator, right? That would leverage chat GPT, right? So it depends upon so I strongly feel that academia should also enable students to get into these variety of job roles, right? I mean, we don't want to hire everyone as a developer. I mean, we don't want everybody to be like an end user skill set, right? So there has to be a healthy availability of talent for all these kinds of roles.
Very interesting. So if we have to ensure there is a talent pipe that is knowledgeable and adaptable, Shinjini, you're getting projects from customers. Customers are saying we want to build this. What are the kind of projects that you're getting? If you can maybe throw some examples, and how are the project teams structured?
Yeah, see, typically, if I talk about skill sets in a project, right? See, there are two kinds of things, and mostly we cater to customers. We will see who would want to solve a problem which they might be solving in some other way. Today, there is generative AI; they want to use it, right? So you would end up using pre-trained models that, for example, OpenAI or some other providers are providing you with, but you definitely need machine learning engineers who understand the space, because you have to still compare different large language model algorithms, right? And see which one is giving you more accurate results, be able to customize them, do the prompt engineering, be able to
Right.
customize them. So that is a skill set that will be needed. You still need people who understand the domain, because without understanding you cannot use this. You need to know, why am I using this generative AI here, right? Is it even useful? How do I use it, right? And thirdly, understanding how you are going to integrate these pre-trained models into your technical architecture, right? Because your data might be sitting somewhere else, right? How do you port that data onto a platform where you're going to run your pre-trained models, right? I'm just giving an example, right? So you should have a very clear vision of how the data will flow through the entire pipeline and finally give you the result in the system where you want the result to sit, right? So it needs somebody who understands and can build the vision of a technical architecture, finally can implement it, knows how to scale this solution and work on it. The hardware implications are also very big, like Amar was mentioning deep learning, right? All of these are deep learning algorithms. So you have to use, for example, a GPU. Now we have moved into the era of GPUs, right? So you have to know what kind of other hardware configurations you need to scale your solution and implement.
The,
That's another skill set, right?
the entire
And
ecosystem.
finally, the budget to do all of this. You have to always evaluate the ROI you will get out of it, right? And then only you can decide.
The entire ecosystem you should be aware.
Yes, so
And in
all
fact,
the skill set will be needed, to
yeah,
assess this entire technical architecture, assess the algorithm, scale it, and then implement it.
it's very interesting that you brought up this concept of prompt engineer. As a child, as a school going kid, etc., college going kid, teachers usually say, ask more questions, even if it's not dumb, ask more questions. And I think now suddenly that's become a reality in what we do. So, Shuchi, what happens here on? When we know what is going to change, how easy is it to move from basic data and AI work to generative AI work?
So, as I mentioned earlier, also, a new technology has a learning curve. And here we have to understand that the new techniques are going to be even more complex. The kind of skill set is basically requiring a lot of intelligence, and at the same time the person and the individual has to be domain has to understand the domain well. So a lot of variables have to come together, so say data, large learning model skills, high computational power. So as mentioned earlier by Shinjini, that I mean, there are a lot of variables involved in it, and all of these variables have to come together for it to be a hit. Till then, there will be evolvement, there will be struggle. So there will definitely be a shift, but the journey is on. It will take time.
Interesting. I guess that technology milestones are quickly changing, and I think people need to stay abreast of what's happening. Vinod, I'm just going back to you. There was a very interesting point that came up recently on, will English be the new coding language? What's your take?
It will be one of the coding languages, but I think Python or SQL, they will always be the favorites.
Okay.
But English, like I said, there are going to be different roles of the. There are people that are going to interact with Chat GPT. So prompt engineers, obviously, you have to be extremely good at English, right? Or whatever. I'm in the future, they'll be able to interact in Spanish or Russian or whatever the language. But whatever it is, I think they have to have really good language skills for them to ask the right questions.
Yeah, we were talking, Amar and I were talking last time, where there might be a completely new business opportunity coming where regional languages might also start becoming a format of coding. And so, Amar, are productivity metrics going to change? Are outcomes going to become faster, or are they going to be more complex? You're on mute, Amar.
I knew I'll make that mistake and I did it. My apologies. Yeah. So the world is changing around us. Are we still going to measure ourselves only using the partner? Let's take one thing. I think one thing which is definitely necessary for any person, whether the person is a student or whether the person is a 20-year-old professional, is the need to learn. The pace of change is phenomenal right now. If we do not learn every single day, we risk becoming obsolete. Will and now organizations will have to incorporate this into their whole thing. It's not just about the work, but like, okay, these 3 hours are devoted to you for learning. Let's discuss about it, creating those forums. Let me take a step back. In academia, there are two aspects. Like Shinjini also was saying, there is a concept and there is a context. The concept, like analysis of data or applying framework, is getting automated, and a lot of things are becoming routine. So that puts tremendous emphasis on the context. Do the students or the professionals understand the context very well? As I say always, there are no stupid answers in this world. There are only stupid questions. You ask a stupid question, you'll get a stupid answer back. So now, the manner in July onwards, when I'm going to start teaching again, I'm going to assess the students on the kind of prompts they give in getting the answers out. It's not just the answer, but how are you reaching that answer? That will help in determining. Let's look at another, just 1 minute, 30 seconds. Let's look at another aspect. Generative AI is leading to automation and efficiency, right? Improving the decision making process, making it easy to personalize and customize. So majority of the metrics might remain the same. We still will be evolving, and in 1 or 2 years we'll come to know. However, they definitely need to be recalibrated. Am I still going to measure myself using the same old metrics? The standards will remain the same? No. To summarize, some new metrics will come up, but majority of them, I see them remaining the same, at least in the next 1.5 years. However, what should definitely happen is recalibration of those matrices.
True. I think outcomes are always important, and
Definitely.
to get to outcomes, it's very critical to
Yeah.
know what kind of questions to ask. Shuchi, tough question for you. Are jobs at risk?
Not really. So I believe that there will be different roles emerging. So even though generative AI is doing complex things like building a website on a command. However, what command to give to the generative to get that thing done is also something one has to learn. That is called prompt engineering. And prompt engineers will have to be at least aware that how the technology behind generative AI works. Only then they will be able to give commands. So I believe that there will be different layers of job now getting evolved. So business intelligent roles, which were basically highly visual analytics, they will have to get aware of this technology and learn how to do prompt engineering. And there will be another set of individuals who are highly talented. They are able to write complex codes. They understand the architect on how generative AI can be implemented. So there will be different, these skill set will be really, they will really excel in their code writing domain. So there will be clear separation of the roles who are very good developers and who are developers who are just aware of, who can leverage this technology.
Interesting. I was reading a book called Creative Destruction, in which it was saying that as new skills come, some old skills will disappear, but more of new skills will come. So I think we can't stay away from that problem. There'll always be jobs that get replaced and newer jobs that come. So last one line question for everyone on the call. Okay, just one line. And I'll start with Shinjini, then Shuchi, Vinodh, and Amar, we'll close with you. Shinjini, ethical AI, what's your take? Industry, people, you name it. But ethical AI, what's your take? One line answer.
It's the horizontal across all industries and everything that you do in AI, I guess, today. I think when we were all discussing about the roles that are coming up today in the world where we have generative AI, I think this is one role. Somebody has to hold that
Hold
position
the fort.
and ensure that ethical AI that we are implementing is ethical. It is not biased. It is not harmful, right? And all of that. It is transparent. It is explainable. All those guardrails need to be
Be there.
maintained, just like we maintain all the compliance guidelines for any business, right? So it is another compliance guidelines, a section in our compliance guidelines that should be added, I think, to ensure that all of these things are followed. And this is a skill set, I think I would say, that should sit with some of the team members who are driving it.
Like an ethical hacker. Shuchi, your take?
I think generative AI is a powerful technology. Machines are creating machines. So one has to be very careful on what we are building and how we are building, because some industries like banks, they have compliance, and how they're leveraging and bringing their data together will have a lot of question mark on the data governance. So ethical AI will become even more prominent in time to come because of this powerful technology of generative AI.
Interesting. I completely agree. Vinodh?
Yeah, in my opinion, large scale adoption of generative AI, I think the biggest barrier is responsible AI or ethical AI, right? I think we really need to be working towards addressing this problem and ensuring. And I spoke about cautious optimism in the industry. A part of it, people are cautious because of all these ethical challenges that are ahead of us. So absolutely important. It needs to be addressed. Probably the biggest elephant in the room that needs to be spoken about.
Wonderful. Amar?
I think it is necessary because the world that we are going in is actually changing so much, but it will be difficult to implement. There will be policies that will be needed because companies ultimately work under the evil shadow of Wall Street. They will try to do that. In India, DND has been around for decades. How many calls do we receive every day? So, the policies and implementation will have to be there. But does the government know what kind of policies to make? This is such a new area. Ultimately, for a company, what is required is, are you simplifying things? I think the single biggest challenge I see is that in this whole thing about generative AI, we should not lose the power of thinking. That's the only thing that differentiates us from the machines. And if we use the power of thinking, we are simplifying things that we are making it transparent. And if we are making it transparent, we are making it, we are actually on the right side of piracy or any other thing that you see, on the ethical side.
I think the concept of having a conscience exists in everything we do, and
Yeah.
very, very important. But thank you so much. I've learned so much in the last 30 minutes, and I think thank you so much for everyone taking the time out and coming on this panel. Really appreciate you taking the time,
Thank you.
and wish you all the best. I look forward to some of the models in tech that all of you are going to build for us, and wish you thank you so much for being here today. Have a good day.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Vijay. Nice meeting you. Thank you.
Thank you, panelist and the moderator. Bhaskar, will the job of event anchors will go away?
I see to a certain extent, and I'll maybe go back to the previous session where we were talking about the whole robot journalism aspect, right? I think some of those elements will come in. So the factual elements is something that the machine will be able to take care of. But the human thought process of how do you link points across time, across knowledge bases, and together create something that is much more useful than what you already had. I think that part will remain, and therefore anchors will absolutely certainly have a job as we move forward.